Hello, everyone.
Hello. Go ahead.
So I'm looking forward to the series. I've read the book, I've seen the original film. I already asked the other table as well. Are you guys all familiar with the previous work? Did you read it before or see it before you actually had the role, or did you investigate once you were part of the project?
I personally had never read the novel or seen the movie. The night before my callback, I thought I should probably watch this movie. But I had heard a lot about it, and I knew that it was very. It was a favorite of a lot of people I know and love. So I watched it, and I also loved it.
Did you use that in your preparations for the role, or because sometimes when you see something before you do the role, I feel like something can intimidate how you prepare.
Yeah.
How did you handle that?
I think it certainly gave a context for me, and to which I was, what kind of world I was supposed to be playing in and acting in. But because my character is a brand new character that didn't exist in the movie, I didn't feel the pressure, or I didn't feel. I could do what I wanted to.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
How about any other thoughts from the other cast members?
Yeah, I didn't know the movie initially. I then watched the movie after the process got rolling a bit, and reading it on the page, the movie just helped, like Grace said, to give it real context, because one of the things I was big on was sort of trying to figure out the tone of the show. Mm-hmm. There's a reality in humanity in it, but there's also vampirism in it, and it wouldn't sync with my mind for a minute. And finally one day, just a little while we were working, I turned and just said, man, what is the tone of the show? It's not quite what the book is. It's not what the other movie is. We're doing our own thing.
Yeah.
Some of this seems comedic at times, and some is heavy at times. What are we doing? Yeah. And he just looked at me and said, well, the tone is, it's all good till it goes bad.
Yeah. I like that.
I said, got it.
That's good direction.
And you mentioned tone as an actor for the four of you. When somebody told you, okay, you're gonna do a vampire show, you go into a full genre mood. Okay, let's do faces, or let's do we're doing this dark thing, or you just, how do you prepare for a vampire show, because you have no grasp on reality?
Yeah, well, I guess there's always just the fact of being a vampire, you wouldn't be in the sun. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of putting on sunscreen, trying to look more pale a little bit for physical preparation. But mental, I think the preparation was less for being a vampire and more for the difficulties that he goes through being mm-hmm. Because it's the preparation of losing your humanity, because that really is all that you have, in a sense. And so to lose everything that you are is something to really prepare for. That's what I would say.
Nick?
What's the question again? I'm sorry.
What kind of
It's been a long day.
Did you practice making faces?
Yeah.
Exactly. Regarding the tone of a vampire show, which would, as an actor, how do you prepare for a vampire show? It's like.
Well, I didn't really have to prepare for a vampire show. Mm-hmm. Necessarily. I was kind of just, working in the, my character's kind of world, and. Spoiler: I'm not a vampire in this, but it was, interesting to. I love the character, mm-hmm. I guess, and there was a lot to work with. It's always fun to play characters who have a lot of emotional baggage and have a lot of dysfunction, and I think the tone, we didn't have to do too much heavy lifting, I would say. Maybe, speak for myself, it was great writing, and I don't know, tonally, I just feel like it was on the page, and got a real sense of who my guy was and what I had to do, and then if it's wrong, you know, they'll slap us down and tell us to change it.
Yeah.
So
No, but tonally, we weren't playing to like a specific genre of a horror show.
A very lovely, moving story, just through the families and watching how they grow and change, and just like how they intertwine as well. I think it's really great. And then to add being a vampire on top of that just heightens it even that little bit more. And I don't know, just really makes it
Raises the stakes.
yeah.
So in terms of that, there's still the expectation of horror when you mention vampire. How did it feel? How did it feel to approach the series as a horror series as well? Or what has horror, like, what type of mindset does it put you in? I know, for example, you've been in a few horror movies as of late, with what Josiah saw specifically, which I loved. What have you gotten out of horror so far?
Trauma. Some PTSD.
PTSD?
Yeah. I would come home from work and my husband would be like, "Are you mad at me?" You know, because I went through so much that day to like get to a place that I could believe myself in feeling like everything was my soul was completely, you know, pulled out of my body, and I was watching the only thing that I love and that is real and true in my life be taken away from me. It's a horrible place to live. So speaking of horror, but no, it was also really fun because you never really get to do that in your life. You know, to explore that. So.
Yeah, for me, right before coming out here, I had filmed a few Christmas little fun things and like a little family-friendly film, and everybody on those sets was like, "What are you doing next? I can't wait to see it." I was like, "Yeah, I don't know about that." I was like, "If this is your genre, I think you should stick with that."
Yeah.
But I think coming out here and being able to film this, it wasn't really, I don't know, it wasn't super horror in my mind, because there really is so much love and so much real to this story. And when I think of horror, I really think of like, I don't know, such a niche situation that you would never be in. And this situation feels like it could happen to anyone. You know, it's not like, oh, you shouldn't have gone in there, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Like there was no wrong decision. There was no, oh, it's just so dumb. Why would you do that? Like everything feels justified and everything feels, it is horror, but I wouldn't put it in the same category.
It's not typical horror.
Yeah.
It's for me, I feel a little bit like it's a story.
Yes, I totally
Thank you. It's a story of relationships that have an element of horror to them, but the story starts with being connected in exploring the extremes of these relationships because of what people want and need in this world, and it totals into elements of horror. But Andrew's written a really human-first story, I think.
100%.
Bouncing off what you just said about like people connecting and finding the horror in those connections, was it difficult at all to tap into like pinpointing that sense of the tension is in the relationships? Like, were there any moments that were in the script that like you immediately latched on and said, "Oh, I know exactly how that feels. I've been in that situation," or I know what that dread feels like of like a relationship ending or a connection being missed that you really want. But was it easy or hard to like find that in the story or the script?
The one thing that strikes me about that question is, you know, a lot of times you can look at something and think you know exactly what it is, but then there's also when you're working with other actors that you trust, you have to be open to what they bring and present. And this is one of the beauties of the work for me, is that you go in, and it's dangerous to go in with an idea of what it's going to be, and then you have to go in and be open to embracing a sense of what comes up in the moment. Because if you get into trying to control the moment, and then it ends up being like, you know, some freaking hack doing something that you're trying to engineer and make happen. And our company of actors are way too unpredictable in choices and open to walk in and think that you're going to control the moment. I think you just have to, you know, load up, go, and be open to what's presented and you know, at the time. You know. You find that, Nick?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you said the relatable thing, you know, and thinking about Matthew or the war veteran element was a tough thing to imagine, you know, and all I could do with that was kind of draw from my own trauma, which is not that trauma, but it's kind of a relative thing, I guess, and sort of draws it. But those are really hard. You know, situations like this guy's been in prison, or this guy's been in the war, this guy, you know. Sometimes those are very. It's really hard to know how you would react in that situation, or how you would actually. You think you know, but the reality. So you know, but the good. I don't know. I would say the good news is a lot of people don't, and we're also, you know, we're creating our own story as well. But there were many things in the script and in reading it that I related to, relationship-wise and story-wise. So yeah.
So while you're digging into all of your traumas for your own characters, how do you then relate that or try to work that into a child vampire? So you have this, you're digging into yourself, and then you also have to contend with the fact that the monster, the big monster, looks like a child. Yeah. How do you come to terms with that?
Well, I think it's easy for any of us to imagine potentially losing someone we love, or watching someone we love slowly die, or, you know, as much as we don't want to imagine it, some people have obviously, many people have gone through that, so, but in this situation, it is sort of hyper reality. I mean, it's definitely for me, seeing my brother eat someone alive is not something I can really imagine. But it's like heightened and taken to another degree. But at the core of it, at the center of it, you can identify that feeling. Yeah.
You know, nowadays, you know, shows are filmed like a one long movie instead of episode, like it was before with procedural, for example. What was your experience filming this, like a long movie? I guess it's like a 10-hour movie instead of episode 1, 2, 3, and 4, right?
Yeah. Being able to film it like that was great at times and difficult at times, because sometimes you got to go forward and kind of do something that really helped you understand why your character's making a decision, and sometimes you fully didn't know because you were also in the middle of an open space and you're like, so why am I here? And you like had to ask some questions and like make sure that you were getting the information you needed. Also, with a lot of shows now, I feel like they create a really wonderful story from beginning to almost end, and then they tack on a little scene at the end just to make sure they could add a second season in case it goes good. and when reading all of these scripts, I never felt like that. I felt like this is like a master plan story in which I got answers that I wanted and I had more questions. And truly, it feels like a long movie in a sense, because there isn't like and there's that first story end and let's get into the second. You kind of get to watch and you want to keep watching.
I think it's also a medium we're all sort of really used to working in at this point. You know, I personally, serial TV shows are what everybody is kind of doing now. So you're used to the story unfolding as you go and not really knowing what's coming next. And I think that's it's fun and that's what people like.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
So you could say it's a slow burn, you know. It's not like in the first episode.
Yeah, not like that at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck with the show.